It's the best Kiwi event in New Zealand, this.
Crossing New Zealand in 1 or 2 days.
Why do I do it? Because I love it.
3, 2, 1, go!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Kathmandu Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you, of course, by Team CP, your endurance coaching specialist. I'm Angus Petrie. Alongside me is the one and only Richard Greer. And Rich, our job, mate, is really to help all these potential competitors and people who have entries get safely on their bikes, on their feet, on their kayak from the west coast of the South Island all the way across to the east coast, eh, mate?
Yeah, isn't that cool? It's cool after all these years, been involved in this for more than 20 years now, to be able to share some of this knowledge, and it's really cool when you get to see them. So as we did in February this year, 2023, have some high fives at registration and during the race and then the finish line as well, of people being successful. So pretty cool to be able to get into season 5 of this podcast now, episode number 2, and to be able to share some of that learning.
It is, and it is episode 2 of season 5. We did actually have episode 1 a wee while back. So it is great to be back with the Coast to Coast logos up and behind us in the studio, mate, and talk about something that, I know you love. You've been doing it forever, and you're a part of the Coast to Coast furniture nowadays. And myself, it is just such a great thing to be a part of. A great show ahead of us tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll tell you, you're just about part of the furniture now too, Angus, talking the talk.
Walking the walk, maybe. Let's talk the talk, not walk the walk. Yeah, do as I say, not as I. Yeah, do as I say, not as I do, type sort of thing.
Definitely put the body on the line. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so tonight we're going to have a bit of a chat about training, how to best to manage your biking, your running, your kayaking. 6 months out from race day as we record this tonight. We're also going to have an update from Race Director Glen Currie and see what's been happening, what he's been up to in terms of are there any developments, things we need to know as athletes lining up, how those wait lists are going, etc. And then we're also going to have a chat. Maybe we'll kick off with Sophie Beaumont, who's our previous podcast kind of guest for the last, I don't know, she might have just about done all 5 seasons with us as well. But it feels like she's been part of the furniture as well. So she's going to talk about tips and tricks for first timers, basically, as standing on the start line, what it takes to get there, and from her perspective, what she's learnt looking back.
Hey, this is a funny little thing. I've just had a background from, the director in the background. That, we talk about coast to coast and we hope for those nice sunny days in the coast to coast. And I've just been told that it's potentially snowing out the window here in Christchurch right as we speak.
Okay, right. There you go. How about that?
I can see Sophie in the background pulling her curtain back, having a look at there. But anyway, that is the different season that we're currently in. So it's not much of a time to be outside running or biking right now, is it?
No, not at all. And I had an athlete actually that went over Goat Pass on the weekend, and he said there was a bit of snow from up a Deception Hut across the top. And then he was also, I was about 30 centimeters worth, and he struggled because he didn't know where to put his feet, slipping and sliding. So it was a bit rough out there. So probably not the time to go and sort of suss out Goat Pass at the moment, unless you're a seasoned campaigner.
No. All right. Shall we bring Soph in?
Yeah, if she's finished looking out the window.
Well, she's always got her big smile on her face, hasn't she? Hey?
Sophie, how are you getting on?
Yeah, good. Love being here with you guys, but no snow out my window as far as I can see. I'm a bit disappointed, actually.
Oh, that's frustrating, isn't it? Damn it.
It was just a word on the street that I got. I can't confirm nor deny, but that's just what I was tipped off with.
Oh, maybe later tonight.
Nice. Hey, Sophie, this is a chance to, I guess, almost reflect on your coast to coast journey, really, which you capped off this year, February 2023. Reflecting back on our podcast as well, when a fresh-faced Sophie Beaumont tandem teammate Nicole Lloyd turned up to tackle the event for the first time, all the way back. COVID cancelled the first event just weeks before, and then you pushed the button on let's do it again. But this time you went solo doing the 2-day individual event and finally completing it early this year. So it's been a big couple of years of adventures, learning, pushing yourself, immersing yourself in the world of multisport and all the awesome people that go with it. It's been a big couple of years, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It's weird thinking back to, 2 years ago when I did my first podcast with you guys and how much I've learned between then and now. And I guess just how much I've grown as well. It sounds a bit cheesy, but awesome journey.
Yeah, good stuff. So if you were to, I know this might be a tough question to throw straight at you, but highlights, would you be able to name 3 kind of key highlights, stuff that happened across your build-up? Because your build-up was a bit unusual because it actually went on for 2 years, wasn't it? So you were sort of standing on the start line for the first time 2 years in. So
Yeah.
some highlights that you could sort of think back on, share with us?
Well, I mean, you say, could I name you 3? Look, I could probably name you 50, but I can try and rein myself into 3. Look, I think the top one for me is the people I've met along the way. I've met so many cool people. It's amazing the people you bump into. I was reflecting on this the other day with a friend who's become one of my best mates and a great training mate, that we met by chance on the Facebook page for Coast to Coast because we both wanted to run Goat Pass and needed someone to shuttle with. Yeah. And so the people I've met along the way, that's been a huge highlight. Another would probably be just exploring all the new places. I get to see the Waimak Gorge from the water, which not that many people get to do, and running Goat Pass and doing lots of training all over the place. That's been pretty incredible as well.
Cool. That's 2. You're doing well here.
Yeah. Oh, and now to choose from the other 48, just one. It's a tough one, but I think probably for me, it's really ignited a real passion for trail running, which I enjoyed running before, but I didn't realize how much I'd love trail running, and doing all the training for Coast has really sparked that for me. So that's been a real highlight as well, I think.
Yeah, good. And seeing all your fast packing adventures, putting a bag on your back and having overnighters, running some of the great walks, etc., has been pretty awesome. So yeah, that's fantastic, isn't it? And everyone will have their own things, but I'd imagine a lot of people will have very similar things that you've just shared with us across the board, reflecting on their first time up. If you were to take yourself back to the start of the journey, all the way back a couple of years prior, is there anything you'd do differently?
I think probably the big one would be that I wouldn't be so hard on myself. I think 2 years ago, if I missed a training session, or if I didn't get enough kilometers in my week, or if I didn't stick to a training plan or whatever it was, I'd beat myself up a bit, and I'd feel like, oh no, I'm gonna fail. I'm not gonna be able to cross the finish line. So I think if I were to go back and talk to Sophie of a couple of years ago, just starting the journey, I would say, chill out. Don't be so rough on yourself. It's a long game, and you can take it easy once in a while.
Awesome, Sophie. Hey, just as we're talking here, if you're watching this live, feel free to put a comment in and ask Sophie. They come up on our feed, so feel free to do that if there's anything that you'd like to know from Sophie as we talk through this. So, like you talk about not being so hard on yourself, what were some of the hardest bits of that build-up? In terms of making it to the start line? Obviously, it was super tough, and the bottom lip went out when we couldn't do it, when COVID didn't allow the 2-day athletes to stand on the start line. I guess a little bit aside from that, because that's different, but what were some other challenges that you had in your build-up?
Yeah, I guess even aside from the fact that it turned into 2 years, I sort of committed to doing it a year out, and even maintaining momentum for a year is quite tough. So aside from the fact that it was 2, that was a really big one, kind of, especially through the winter when it's dark and cold and, potentially snowing out your window. It's, that's definitely something I found pretty tough. And, it's an ongoing challenge to kind of maintain that motivation, I guess. My other big challenge would be the kayaking. I've spoken about this before. Everyone who's gone to one of the mountains with me knows that I love to moan about kayaking.
Were you moaning on the weekend when we were out running about kayaking? I think you were.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. Who has worshipped Mary Tomorrow? I had a good moan about kayaking. So, But look, I've got a bit of a mental block about it, and I've come a long way. But
I've heard that people have seen you in the boat singing away in your happy place.
Oh, yeah, usually just after I've been having a good cry. So, it sort of swings both ways.
So maybe it was a sad song you were singing or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, and the laughter might actually have been a sob. Who knows?
It's very close, isn't it? Classic.
Yeah,
nice,
but yeah, that's been a big challenge.
Yeah, good. But big challenges like that do make it more rewarding, doesn't it? When you're actually able to get through the course and tick it off and say, "Yep, I actually did that," and make it through, which is awesome. In terms of, tell us a little bit about your race day. Did it go as expected for you? Did it go mostly to plan?
It went to plan, I guess, in the sense as much of a plan as I had one, which really was just to get it done and hopefully enjoy the process. Actually, I'd say it went better than to plan. I mean, I just had the most fun, particularly day one. It was so good. I absolutely loved it from start to finish.
Cool.
Like I genuinely had such an awesome time. There were a couple of little hiccups. Like we had a compulsory portage halfway through the kayak, and I managed to jam. I didn't realize at the time, but I jammed my water hose, which meant that I didn't have any water for the second half of the kayak. And then I got out of the boat and ran up to transition and tried to leave without my transponder because I'd taken it off to get my booty off. And, little hiccups, but nothing major. I was really lucky. Things went well. And, I guess I took a whole lot of learning away from it just in terms
of... What were some of those things?
Things like how to manage my transitions. Like I had what I thought was a pretty comprehensive document for my support crew, but looking back, I could have given them so much more info and I could have made that so much easier for them. So, that was really good learning, and is something that I, implement differently next time would be to really spell things out for the support crew, not expect them to know things like, I don't know what, I thought I had good instructions about what food I'd want and stuff, but in hindsight, it was all quite vague.
Right.
So
because you knew, but they didn't know.
I knew. Yeah, and I thought that my instructions made sense, but looking back, they made sense to me. So that would be a big learning, and I guess, just I kind of like, again, as before, not sweating the small stuff too much. Learning that you just got to go with the flow and enjoy the process.
Yeah, nice work. In terms of your, I guess, going back to your race day, what was the hardest thing? What was the toughest thing on race day for you? What was the thing that you were sort of, hey, was there any time where you're actually just in the hurt? Like, was that towards the end of the paddle when you haven't got anything to drink and you've still got hours to go?
Yeah, it most definitely was. I was going to say I'll give you 3 guesses, but you obviously already
I was listening.
It was when I got to Woodstock. And, I've paddled from Woodstock down to Gorge Bridge a lot of times, and I know that part of the river well. And I thought that I would get to that point on race day and I'd be like, okay, it's all good. I'm nearly there. I know this part of the river. I'm safe. But I got there and I was so exhausted and I hadn't had water for ages, and things weren't going that well from a nutrition perspective at that point. Because I hadn't had water to wash stuff down, and I could basically barely lift my arms. I was absolutely knackered, and I got to Woodstock and I went, oh my gosh, I've got 15 Ks to go. I don't know if I've got another hour in me. And that was a huge mental battle. I mean, it was a physical battle as well, because I, as said, basically couldn't lift my arms. I was so tired. But yeah, mentally that was huge. And I'm so proud of myself that I didn't give up and get out of my boat at Woodstock, because I kind of thought about
it. When you first figured out about your water hose had been clamped, or you'd pinched your water hose, how mentally tough was that? Did you process that at the time, or were you just still hurrying along so you didn't really care, or did that then, does it sit in the back of your mind, oh crap, bad things are coming?
Yeah, it was a little anxiety niggle back there. And, I'd sort of got through most of the bits of the kayak that I was nervous about. I'd got through by that stage. And again, I'd kind of said to myself, once the portage is over, I'm kind of in the clear. There's not too much that I'm nervous about from that point. And it definitely messed with my head a bit. It's not a biggie, but those little things, they can really throw you off. So that would be, I think, a key piece of advice is, take those extra seconds to check that things are all good. If I'd taken that 20 seconds when I got back into my boat and just made sure that water was flowing, I would have saved myself a lot of stress and anxiety further down the river. So yeah, take that time, I think. And
in hindsight, should have you actually just pulled over, got it sorted, and carried on?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I was like, no, I'm in a good groove. I'm going. I haven't fallen out of my boat. I've just got to keep moving. If I stop, I'll jinx it. It was done.
Yeah. Yeah. But then your bottom lip gets out more and more and more and more. And then, and it makes it harder and harder. Yeah. I mean, that's good advice, isn't it? It's the same as like when you're getting too hot or too cold, just stop and change your layers before you do get into trouble. Have something to eat, just reassess, get yourself sorted, then go again.
Rest assured, though, you won't be the only person to have gone down that route and then gone, oh, if only I had just stopped, I would have, I think every competitor's probably been in that position where they could have done something really simple for a really short amount of time and it would have made all the difference. But stubbornness says, we'll just keep going.
Yeah, I don't want to spend that 20 seconds, even though it might save me 10 minutes down the line. We're stubborn people, aren't we?
Well, exactly. You're going, well, so let's keep rolling. Absolutely. It makes sense, doesn't it? That's just experience as well, isn't it? Because you've done that, you've had that experience, you'll be better for it next time. So I guess that's part of sharing that as well. Just a couple of quick questions. Sophie, what's your favorite nutrition for racing?
I think, I use a lot of Tailwind. Big fan of that for training and racing. But I quite like a bit of like real food in my transitions. Quite enjoyed a Vegemite and cheese sandwich. Goes down quite well. I like that for a mission in the hills as well. And my mum makes a really good sultana cake, and I had quite a lot of that in transitions, and that was awesome as well. But actually, here's my favorite nutrition hack.
Here we go.
For the kayak, I made what I called my buff bottle, because it was just a bottle in the front of my PFD with a long straw so I could drink from it really easy. And into it, I squeezed like 6 gels and about 5 scoops of Tailwinds and then, a little bit of water. So it was really syrupy and sickly, which was great until I didn't have any water to wash it down with, and then it was absolutely awful. If you've got water, the buff bottle is a great call.
Okay. I like it. That's very good. Nice.
Does mum make like an extra one of those fruitcakes? Like, is there any chance she might make an extra one?
Look, she's actually visiting Christchurch this weekend from Wellington. So would you like me to have a quiet word with her?
Oh, well, I'm not saying that, but, if you were to do that, then,
Look, I'll see what I can slip into conversation, shall I?
That'd be much appreciated. And a hot tea, actually, if we're going there, like a bit of fruitcake and a bit of hot tea would be good too. But if that's
she takes every trip, so yeah, you're in safe hands.
Nice. What's your favourite place for an adventure, Sophie?
Very hard call. I love anything that involves a hill that I can climb up, but probably Mount Oxford. I really, really love running all of the trails on Oxford. It's just awesome, great technical terrain and beautiful views. That's my favourite.
Nice work. And will you be back to coast at some point? Is that something that you'll look to do, or is it one and done? I've had an awesome experience here. What's your plan going forward?
No, it's definitely in the plan. I'm on the wait list for next year's event, so we'll see how that goes. I don't think next year, but I'd love to do the longer stay at some point. I'm starting a new job soon, and it's a bit too stressful to have the idea of longer stay on top of that. But yeah, one day longer stay. And
what number on the wait list are you?
Oh, I haven't checked recently, but actually quite high, so I should probably start training. When you say high, like you're nearly at the top. Yeah, like close to the entry point. So yeah, I might need to get my kayak out.
Yeah, right, good stuff. Hey, and Sophie, to finish up, have you got any other advice that you would give to others that are competing for the first time, turning up to coast for the first time, based on your experience?
I think I've got quite a lot, to be honest, some of which I've kind of shared, but I think the big ones from me, one of them is to make sure you have fun with it. It's you're going to be doing a lot of training. You're out there putting in a lot of hours, and if it's your first time, I think firstly you've got to think about your why. Are you wanting to compete at the top of the field? Are you just wanting to do it as a bucket list thing? What's your why? And I think you've got to kind of tailor your training and your race according to what that why is. So if you're like me, the goal was to complete it, to do it in the, feeling like I had pushed myself as hard as I could, and to have a whole lot of fun along the way. And because of that, I made sure that I trained with mates all the time. I didn't, I tried not to sweat stuff too much. This is, a bit further down the line after I learned to stop sweating the small stuff. And, I had a lot of fun with it. I got out there and did things I love doing. And so I think that's my main piece of advice. Think about why you're doing it, and then make sure that the way you're training matches why you're doing it. and have fun.
That's great advice, because we often Steve Gurney did this. Like elites do this. I should be doing 20 hours a week, which is just not practical for most of us. And often we start going quite well, and then it builds up more than that. Oh, I'm actually going quite well here, and then I get more and more involved, and then my job suffers, my social family life suffer, etc., and I get everything all out of whack. But I'm not doing it based on what I originally started to. So just coming back to that is super important. That's great advice.
Sophie, speaking of advice, before we go, I've just got a couple of things I want to share. But one, I think we better answer Trev Garrett's question here. He's got, as you can already probably understand what's coming from Trev. But hey, thoughts on training with Coco on Zwift? I'm feeling like there's a story here.
Yeah, look, I'll be honest. I'm not a big fan of Zwift. My boyfriend Jared, who's sitting at the other end of the table laughing at this, Trev's a good mate, is he likes training with Coco on Zwift, and sometimes we joke that there's a third person in our relationship, and it's Coco. Yeah. But this doesn't really do it for me. I like to be outside.
Yeah. I hear.
Good stuff.
No,
that's awesome, Sophie. Hey,
something I just want to share is that with you, Sophie, and the journey that we had with you through this podcast and following along, is that in the privileged position that Rich and I are in, although Rich is often busy competing. So I guess more me over the Coast to Coast weekend. And I got to say, it's an absolute privileged position we hold to be a part of the media team and actually get in behind and see what goes on. The journey, what really brings excitement to me and the joy of it all is watching the emotion on people, right? Like, and being right next to the emotion. And I can, we followed you right from arriving over there, the nerves on the start line. I talked to your support crew, your father and things at the kayak, and just how proud they were, when you came through. But then to see you finish and the emotion that, and if I was clever, I would have had that clip here on ready to go, but I don't. But the emotion when you come across the finish line, which is what 99.9% of Kathmandu Coast to Coast people experience when they hit that beach and they hit that finish line, and all the emotion of that weekend comes across them. You were just an absolute prime example of that, and it was just a privilege to share that.
Oh, thanks, guys. I really appreciate that. I mean, I'm looking back on that interview. I actually rewatched it a while ago. It's slightly embarrassing. I was very emotional, but it's such a cool journey, and anyone who's listening, who's doing Coast for the first time, start of next year, I'm so excited for you to have that experience. It is such an incredible feeling crossing that finish line. And you're so right. That emotional journey is almost, in fact, it's probably every bit as significant as the physical one.
Yeah, that's right. And it doesn't become real until you sort of you're getting on that towards the end of that bike ride, actually, I think I'm going to be able to do this. I think I'm actually going to pull this off. And then it all comes together towards the end. It's so good, isn't it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yep. Well done. Well done. Hey, Sophie, thank you so much for sharing tonight. And on behalf of Angus and I and the whole Coast to Coast community, we really appreciate your honesty and what you shared with us over the last few years. And it won't be the last time. We'll drag you back for another episode, I'm sure. So all the best for your next adventure and starting that new job. And look forward to following your progress and catching up with you soon.
Thanks so much, guys. It has been a real pleasure to be on board with you. And I'm really grateful for the opportunity.
Cool. Good luck on the waiting list.
Yeah, thanks.
Not sure if we can have a part of that, but
sure we'll do something.
Hopefully I'll be seeing you on the start line.
Yeah. Cool.
Well done.
Thanks, Soph.
Okay.
See ya.
See you guys.
Yeah.
Speaking of race director, actually just a reminder that later on in the show, we do have the race director, Glen Currie, on the show to close it out. So that's going to be cool to catch up with him. Hey, just another thing, because we talk about Coast to Coast and how exposed it is to how, it's a world event. It's the world mountain sport multi-sport championship things. I just see before we got a little like and a love heart from Arthur from Ireland, who was one of our supported athletes last year. So cool to see that Ireland is still tuning into this, Rich, and
how good.
We're reaching households all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. What time of the day is it there? There's definitely some commitment going on. Maybe you should be at work. What's going on? But no, that's super good.
But how many times have you wandered off from work and had Coast to Coast interrupted, eh? You wouldn't be the first guilty person.
And while I'm at work, I'm thinking of Coast to Coast type stuff. Yeah, it definitely happens. Correct. Yeah, no, it's super cool, isn't it? And great to have everyone tuning in. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're going to talk with you in a second about training and bits and pieces. But maybe, Rich, do you want to just talk us through the CP Training Plan Plus?
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's a new thing that we're just sort of bringing out this year as a way to, I guess, one thing with our coaching, we've been doing it for lots of years now, and it's a lot of one-on-one, which makes a lot of sense in terms of working with individuals. But one thing we wanted to try and incorporate is just build a team and then a group of people that can kind of, I don't know, just support each other and cheer each other on and have others to meet when you get there on race day, so it's not so scary. So what we've basically got is we've got 20 weeks, 20 athletes, so we're going to limit it to 20 people. Basically, once a month, catch up together as a group and basically check in to see how everybody's going, what some challenges are, what are some things that we're doing well, and basically just to share that learning, all underpinned by sort of our normal sort of coaching process as well. So that's something that we're really excited to kind of offer starting in September, so which is the start of next month, and to basically help you get to the start line and have an awesome day out.
Nice. So you are, I don't know, what are you? You're a pro athlete, aren't you?
An
Nearly.
old guy.
Can we call you a pro athlete? An old dog. Can we call you an old dog? Look, you're a very experienced athlete along the way, and you've been a very successful campaigner at the Coast to Coast. So how does Greer, how does he train for this thing? Look, you've got a coaching business. You're full time trying to help everybody else. You've got about 100 kids that run around your house. You've got
there's 4 kids actually. So just to clarify,
right. Some days it feels like there's 100 of them. But how do you get around training? How do you make that happen?
Yeah, I guess it's like Sophie said, it's sort of a bit of a lifestyle-y type thing, really. At the end of the day, but and it comes back to consistency and kind of doing things on a regular basis. So, say after this year just been, I actually did Ironman for the first time to see if I could 3 weeks after Coast, which was a big job. That was a different challenge completely. And then after that, I just had some time off. I just sort of did nothing much at all and kind of did stuff if I felt like it. So it felt like I had a bit of time off. And then I guess like I do 3 Zwift sessions a week, which is across the course of winter with our crew. So that's sort of a bit of a foundation of what I've done and a bit of ride my mountain bike for fun, etc. And then I guess just in the last month or two, I've sort of started picking up a bit of running, kind of doing that sort of thing. And running was something that I needed to do a bit more from last year. So it's not huge. I guess it's 6 hours would be a sort of almost a bigger week for me across the course of winter. And so it's just a matter of keeping on chipping away, and then sort of coming into spring, let's pick up a bit more paddling and get into the swing of that. But also one thing I've been dabbling with and probably not doing a great job is doing a bit of strength training. So I think I've done a better job of that this winter, making sure that I've done 2 sessions a week of actually lifting some stuff, which has been quite cool. So yeah, it's about the exercise and duration and intensity, how hard you're going, how long you're going for, mixing that with the recovery, actually making sure you do bounce back from that, and then thinking about the fuel, how your nutrition goes, and making sure you actually sleep to recover. But then you've got to sort of box all that in with how busy life is and family and stressful work and all that sort of stuff. And if you balance that stuff, well, then you might have to make some changes to how hard you're training and how much you're sleeping, but then hopefully you're going to improve as a result of that. So exercise plus some recovery equals you getting better. So it's just balancing that stuff, I guess, as a general rule.
If you're doing a strength day, is that just strength, or do you do a strength session and then put something else in the day?
Yeah, I generally would put something else in the day. Like one thing I've done, I finally figured it out. Your week starts on a Monday and then you go Monday to Sunday generally. But what I've changed this year is I said, okay, my strength week starts on a Saturday. So then, because you generally got a little bit more time across the weekend, so actually get a strength training session done on the weekend. So I'm up one, and then I've just got to fit another one in during the week. Opposed to what's happened in the past, I'm gonna do a strength session this week and 2 this week, and then I get to Saturday and I haven't done any, and then I've got 2 to do on Saturday and Sunday, and then I get to Sunday and I've got 2 to do on Sunday, and then what's the point? So that's been quite a cool thing actually, just to kind of flip the thinking along those lines. So generally I would. But they're not, I guess, so hard that I can't move afterwards. Yeah.
I was just going to ask the next question, and actually, I'll have to admit that this is actually going to come out wrong because you wrote these questions, but this is how it reads. How do I know if I'm doing enough? Well, the honest truth is, we know I'm not doing enough. So nobody's ever going to believe that question, right? So
how do you know though? How do you know you're not doing enough, Angus?
Yeah, well, because 0 is probably not enough, right?
Yeah.
Probably,
and you times it by 100, it's still 0, isn't it?
It's still 0. That's right, mate. It's like the old media budget, isn't it? Hey, in all seriousness, though, mate, like how that is always one of the big questions people. Well, sometimes they don't ask, do they? And they just think they're not doing enough, so then they start really smashing themselves when they shouldn't be. But how do we balance it? How do we know when's good and when's not?
I guess, and that's the challenge with coast to coast, because if my legs are tired, I can go paddling, and if I'm sick of paddling, I can ride my bike, and you can just do more and more, and you think to what everyone else seems to be doing, because everyone else seems to be doing more, don't they? So if I'm doing enough, it's definitely a balancing act with balancing the 3 disciplines plus some strength for a 4th. So I guess doing some testing is a really good option. Actually doing a time trial. So that could be good. Doing an FTP on Zwift, actually jumping in your boat and doing 20 minutes of hard and see how far I could go, etc. So actually tracking your progress and writing it down is a really good way. And if I haven't improved, well, why? Well, maybe the conditions weren't the same, or what do I have to eat, or how tired, or what am I compared to last time? So all those things. I guess the other one is,
journal. Do you keep a journal?
Yep.
So do you have like a round the block? Let's say we've got a 4K round the block loop or something, and you just like mark, okay, well, that's going to be my training, and I'm going to write down the weather, what I had for breakfast, all those sort of things. Is that what you do?
Yeah, well, Strava's a great tool for that, actually. And then you can run across that Strava segment. So Strava's good because it naturally occurring evidence of, I went over the Strava segment faster without even really trying. So that's quite interesting. But then also you can put some notes in there for yourself that doesn't have to go public, just in terms of, okay, I had a good crack at this today, and then how did I go? So then you can reflect back on it. The key thing is just to remind yourself of the date, so then you can actually remember when it was on that one. So that's a really good little thing to do. The other one would be a build-up event. Actually make sure that you do try an event or two in the lead up, because hey, sometimes you think you're going really well, but then you line up with everyone else, and then A, you'll learn some stuff, and B, it sort of makes it gives you a good bit of feedback on how I'm actually tracking. So that's really important as well.
And probably, I guess that's with group sessions and actually just finding a mate who's also doing coast or training for something else, and just, you always push yourself harder when you're training with somebody else, don't you? Like you can't help but try and half wheel somebody when you're on the bike or something like that, can you? So I guess that is, a good way too to work out if you're there or thereabouts.
Absolutely. It is definitely a good way to test yourself. Absolutely. But it all comes back to making sure you're actually recovering enough, making sure that you are balancing things out, and making sure that you still have a job and you still recognize the family as part of that as well. And then also, like, we're 6 months out at the moment, we don't need to be peaking right now. I remember when my brother first did this event, he was peaking in December. He was fizzing and he was ready to go. It's a long time from Christmas time through to it's like 6 or 8 weeks through that. And he was cooked by the time he actually arrived. He was just, I'm sick of this. I'm just turn up. I just want to do this and get it done. So I guess you've got to play the long game a little bit as well. It's not Christmas time. It's actually February, middle of February when this thing actually happens.
So you're convinced he would have actually, if he could have done it in December or Christmas, he would have actually gone better?
I think he probably would have. Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. So what about training for all 3 disciplines, mate? How do we do that? What?
Yeah, I've talked about this a lot,
eh?
and yeah, it is. Yeah, 100%. And my 15-minute rule is probably one of the key things there, is that, and if you've listened to the podcast before, you'll remember this, but just quickly, it's basically 15 minutes is a minimum amount of time to call a session. So if you've got 14 minutes and 30 seconds on the clock, you got to go up around the lamppost and back again to actually tick it off. So having a little rule like that's good, because it means you can always fit it in somehow, so that consistency happens. But also 2 15-minute sessions of a short, hard bike, full send, and then a run. Actually, I've run and a bike today, so my body's seen that. Or I'm going to go for a run plus jump in the boat. So that's a really useful little thing. It doesn't have to be an hour every time you turn up, because it just becomes unrealistic for most that are trying to do life at the same time. So I think that's really important. And then I was thinking about what are my key sessions on this week, and that's where that training plan can help you. Like, generally the key sessions are maybe one that's a bit longer, because ultimately the whole training thing is building up to simulate what the race is going to be like, and then and being able to cope with that. And then the other bit is often the other key session would be one that's a bit faster. So it might be that ride with a mate session that you're doing there, or a run group or something like that you turn up and just go, I'm just going to run fast and see what happens today. So making sure you do those ones well, so you're fresh and ready for them, and also give yourself some time to recover from them as well. So I'd say do a little bit of everything when you're ready to, and then also know why you're doing that session and what the objective of it is as well.
Well, the next question is actually for me. And what if I haven't actually started training yet?
You haven't started training yet, Angus?
And the next one after that's probably, what if I've got a really big book of excuses?
Yeah, I guess it's always now, is it? Like, actually, if I haven't started training yet, and there'll be a bunch of people that haven't started training for this thing, because it's winter and it's tough, and I've got my entry in, sweet, I'll do that. The key thing is start small. And I think often when we do start training for things like this, we think, right, I'm doing the coast to coast, I've got to do lots. And then what happens is I do too much, and then I end up getting injured because I do a run today and then try and run again the next day. Does this ring some bells, Angus? And then try and run again the next day. And then I get injured. So that's not what we want. So spread it out and start small and listen to your body, and then get underway. And the other bit is, like I talked a bit about strength training, a bit of some press ups and a bit of a side plank type thing, and doing some just lunges, etc. Like those sort of key exercises are really important to make sure that I can move well and less likely to actually get injured as well. So that will mean that you'll have a better time and build up better without breaking down.
Yeah, and there'll be a lot of people that won't have started training, but actually have some sort of fitness background from doing something beforehand. So that will naturally kick in and be a help as well. And the other small things, like, if you've got a dog and you're taking the dog for a walk and you go to the park or something and you're walking along, just walk up and down the gutter and walk across some logs, and you can actually do all of those sort of small things while you're out doing things like that.
100%. So that balancey type stuff. Maybe you're playing a team sport for winter. That's great fitness, isn't it? And then you can sort of, once the winter sport finishes, then you can dial into a bit more specific stuff. But yeah, I guess it's just starting small and making sure it's sustainable, and building that routine is the key thing we want to be doing at the stage, because you've still got plenty of time. I guess the other thing to think about there in terms of training, it's not all about fitness. It's actually about your skills. So it's about, okay, have I got my grade 2 booked in? How's my paddling? Like, and actually starting to think about how am I actually moving, opposed to just thinking about getting fitter all the time.
And actually, you're quite right there about, have a book my grade 2 in, but you may not have started training, but you could actually be doing the planning of a whole lot of stuff as well, the logistics side of it. And actually, that is actually starting training. Mate, this is starting to get personal. I'm sure you have written this list personally. What if I need to lose some weight, Richard?
Is that a personal question? You're asking that on behalf of someone else, I guess?
Hypothetically, let's just say hypothetically I needed to lose some weight.
Well, it is a thing, isn't it? Like this whole running gig, etc. It is a power to weight ratio game. So if you are not carrying as much, it does make the thing a little bit easier. So again, it's just a matter of looking after yourself. Often it's just little things, isn't it? In terms of, maybe I need to tidy up my breakfast, maybe it's my snacks, maybe it's I need to drink some water, maybe it's the it's portion sizes, etc. Most of us probably know what we need to do. Might be dropping the alcohol intake to down a bit, etc. So I guess it's just boring. Actually, not all the time dropping. I didn't say stopping. Yeah. But hey, whatever the thing is for you, is to make a promise to yourself to say, that's what I'm going to have a crack at. And hey, it might be that you need to get some support to help you with that as well, to actually, I guess, hold you accountable, but actually come up with some ways of doing it. Because it's not just about doing it hard, it's about being smarter and learning about it as well. And that's the beauty of this whole journey. It's the skills that we learn of doing the coast to coast and having a big goal like this, they're life skills, the things that we can take into being fit and healthy going forward as well.
Yeah, totally. Let's talk injuries quickly, because everybody has one. Everyone will get one, no doubt. Obviously, right now, being so far out from coast, if you have an injury now, we need to be dealing to it, eh?
Yeah. 100%. And there's lots of good people out there who help with injuries. That's their job. Like, a good physio is really important. The other thing around that, and if you've had an injury before, that's the most likely reason why you're going to get one again, because you injured the same thing, your calf muscle pings again, etc. So what can I do to stop that? So some strength is really important. So going to see a physio to do like a muscle balance movement analysis is actually really good. Like physios love movement, and you'll walk into the office and they'll be able to pick up the fact that you've got tight hip flexors and you've got no glute muscles just for you as you walk in. So actually to go in and sit down and see somebody, or it could be a good strength coach, and actually for them to say, these are the 5 exercises that you need to do, and these are a couple of key stretches that you need to do. Spending half an hour, 45 minutes with someone like that will just change the game and help your build up as well. So if you've got an injury, get it sorted as soon as you can, and have a plan for that. But if you haven't got an injury, well, how can I preempt so that doesn't happen down the track as well?
Yep. And actually, you touched on something there about the getting a good physio and bits and pieces. The experts, like take the time and use some of the experts. Like you can train your ass off to try and get as fit and as fast as you damn well want, but if you haven't actually got good technique, if you haven't got the right bike fit, if you're not running correctly, you're missing a really easy gain.
Absolutely. And that's the fun part of it, isn't it? Is that how do I improve the most with the least possible effort? And it's not just about training harder and harder and harder, because it's probably end up just breaking down, but how can I move better? And paddle technique is a great example of that, isn't it? Actually get someone to help teach you, how do I get a bit of a leg drive going on? How do I actually use my core muscles as I'm paddling as well? So how do I actually do that? So get someone else to film yourself, get someone else to give you some feedback on that, get some drills and things to shoot for. So how do I train smarter rather than just trying to feel like I have to do more?
Yeah. Well, mate, as this is the Kathmandu Coast to Coast podcast, of course, brought to you by Team CP, and mate, you are the team captain. How are you going to help me? How is Team CP, or how are you going to help me get off this couch?
Well, I'd say it's a matter of getting on your bike. I think it goes back to what Sophie said. Why are you doing it? And if that why is good enough, well, then you'll want to. And I think, and the other thing she really talked about was having fun with it as well. So if you're having fun and you're doing it for the right reasons of the adventure and the downhill, and I'm just enjoying getting out and about, that's the reason to start. And then it's just also a matter of, I guess, the easy wins. Let's just start and tick some stuff off and get some runs on the board. So they don't need to be big, massive missions that you end up being really sore for days. It's just actually a matter of, getting started, feeling good about that, having a smile on your face, and it might even be a friend to drag you out as well, just to have a bit of accountability there. So, I'd say go back to that and then, just quietly build some momentum.
Righto. Well, just quickly before we finish this section, what about you giving us, like for the newbies, maybe the Richard Greer 5 hot tips?
Oh, that's a good question. 5 hot tips. We're talking training tips, are we?
Yep. Let's go.
Okay.
One.
Okay. So consistency is number 1. So it's all about consistency, turning up on a regular basis, challenging your body to adapt and improve. The next part of consistency is having a routine, so then you don't have to think about it too much. So then you can turn up and the family know on a Wednesday night that's what you're doing. You're doing that particular session, and I'm going to be missing tea or whatever. So the consistency and routine are really key. And then it's those foundations, isn't it? Like getting those right, that sleep, the managing the work stress, what else is going on. So looking after your recovery. Nutrition is also pretty important as well, making sure that you're recovering and fueling your body. That's 5. And make sure you're having adventures. Go left rather than right. You always go right. Let's have a look down that way. And it's a fantastic way of making a run a bit longer by getting a little bit lost and then trying to figure out how the hell I'm going to get home again. So that's a great wee training tool as well. So have fun and have some adventures as you go.
Cool. Now, don't forget, if you are listening and you do want to know more, you've got any questions, you can fire some questions at us here now live, or flick us a message on the Team CP Facebook page if you've got something, or jump on the Team CP website and push a book now and book a slot with Rich to just to catch up and talk through how and we may be able to help you. Yeah,
that's right. There's a book a call button on our website. Goes through to my diary. More than happy to share. So feel free to do that. That's absolutely fine.
Beautiful. Well,
Easy.
I know what we should do now. And the last part of our segment tonight, Richard, is pretty exciting because, of course, Race Director Glen Currie is with us, and he is going to give us all of the latest updates of where the Kathmandu Coast to Coast and how it's tracking for 2024. G'day, mate.
Yeah,
Welcome.
guys. Hey, Angus. G'day, Richard.
How you doing, Glenn?
Good. You guys?
Yeah, really good.
Is
Thanks.
there snow
Yeah.
outside your window?
No. We got plenty on the hill, but we're not quite like Central that have a heap on the ground. So, but there's plenty on the mountain, which is good. Feels like winter's just hit in the last 2 weeks, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And what have you been up to in the last wee while? It's been a while since we've caught up to you. What's been happening on the coast to coast front?
Oh, the coast team goes into hibernation a little bit over June and sort of July. It's sort of a nice time of year, but no, we're sort of ticking away. We actually, as a team, we ran for the first time the Routeburn Classic this year, which was really exciting for us, and it was the first time we'd run it, and a super amazing event, which Evan started a number of years ago. So we felt honoured to be able to pick that up, and hopefully, after another year, we can do it justice to what he created there. But if you haven't been over the Routeburn, arguably probably the finest trail run in New Zealand, I believe it's stunning. So that was good fun for us, and a new venture. So that was really cool. So that was back in April, and then since there, it's sort of been starting to get into operations mode again for Coast next year. So probably our last couple of months consist of touching base with all our sponsors and checking in with them. And a lot of sort of the beginnings of the major operation areas, such as the traffic management and things, has been pretty major focus for us over the last couple of months in terms of we're always trying to tweak things in those areas and improve them and whatnot. So it's been us. So.
No major hurdles or anything thrown in there. No major
it's
changes
always,
or anything.
No, not really, Angus. There's always challenges. We're the only, I always say we're probably the only event that actually shuts down a state highway, endurance event that shuts down a state highway in this country. And, that brings about challenges. And, with increasing population and increasing tourism numbers, etc., we have to be aware that, the impact the event has on people outside of the event. So there's always things that we've got to make sure that we sort of we're working with the public so that we can keep the event going, really. So,
what do you tell them if they want to use the road enter?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. If they don't want to go around the long way, they can jump on a bike, and it might be quicker to go through. But no, we're really fortunate that people are so supportive of the event that most people can see that they want it to happen. So can make those considerations around it. So and otherwise it's sort of winter time, and we're just looking forward to really starting to crank into it in the next month or so, and it's a bit like training, really.
Yeah, nice. Are there any new developments? Is there anything we'd expect to be different this time if we've been to the event before?
Not overly, Richard. We're tweaking a few things, trying to get those over the line, just in terms of, like I say, operations and support crew, and that'll all come out in the handbooks, any new requirements. But no, not majorly. And the unique thing about the coast is it is 40 years old, and really there hasn't been a hell of a lot of changes over those 40 years. Because we've got that set course. So. We're just tweaking things. We're always trying to tweak things to make it easier on the support crews, a better experience. Which will end up being a better experience for the athletes. So just little bits and pieces that we're continuously trying to work away on.
Nice. You mentioned support crews there. That's one thing that it's a big part of the race. But I think if we're coming from outside of New Zealand, we don't quite have an understanding of what this whole coast to coast gig is about. I mean, can you touch on that in terms of what's involved for them, and do we actually need support crews, etc.?
Yeah, I think every year we get a number of people who get a little caught out in terms of the actual logistics around this event. And everyone looks at the distance of the event, and you could probably, some of those distances are comparable, or similar to Ironman or whatever. The big difference with coast to coast is we go point to point, where a lot of events that are endurance events will go from, I suppose use a bit of sort of like they have one transition point, and everything sort of is based around that area. And coast is point to point, and the terrain that you travel through, as an athlete, is incredibly technical, and it is incredible. For a lot of people coming over as support crews, the terrain they actually travel through is quite incredibly technical too in terms of the roads that you drive, etc. There's a lot going on, and for new athletes, it's probably trying to gain an understanding of that as much as possible, and actually, getting that across to their support crews that they're in for a big couple of days. And if the support crews are probably thinking they're coming down to base themselves in one area and have a coffee cart and sort of they're probably in for a little bit of a shock. There's early mornings, and you often hear the support crew are more fatigued after the weekend than the athletes themselves, because it is a big weekend with not a lot of sleep. But it also is really rewarding for the support crew, and it's what makes it's one of the aspects which make the event really special, is that the support crew are that they have an experience themselves. So it's a big part of it. So it's pretty cool. But just getting an understanding and thinking about your support crew now and actually getting across to them what it is all about, and that helps us out a lot in terms of our operations too. If people turn up and know what's going on, it definitely helps us out.
Nice. And that's what Sophie talked about at the top of the show around her learnings, is just to be a bit more specific to those support crew and make sure that it's really clear. So then it makes their job easier and they're less stressed about it as well, which is important. We talked a bit about training, etc. as well. What's like, from your perspective, what should athletes be doing now, 6 months out from the race?
Yeah, I mean, you probably touched on it all, Rich, and it's probably from my perspective, it's coming from someone who, did race as well. And we are actually, appreciate there's a lot of internationals who could be listening, and they're actually in a good time of year to be training. But in New Zealand, we are probably you are right in the most difficult time. And it's a really tough time when you've got this coast to coast dream that you sort of, struck up in January when it was nice and warm, and you've probably been out exercising. I'd really like to do that. And for a lot of athletes right now, it's a really challenging time where it's cold. They might be carrying an injury, and they're sort of thinking like, I don't know, my advice to people would probably be, a bit of the old visualization. And in 3 months' time, we're going to be back to daylight savings. You're going to be out running in the evening after work. It's going to be, or in the morning. It's going to be stunning. And then even thinking right through to, when you actually get that kayak out and it's warm, whether you're on the lake or on the river, and actually starting to visualize that stuff, because it will come around pretty quick again. So, these painful sessions that you're having at the moment, they'll all be worthwhile. So just a bit of visualization about the good times you're having in summer. And Sophie, I mean, how good I think she was spot on when she reflects on her experience, and she talks about all the missions and stuff that she did up to the event. And that, especially the first one, if you ever do the first event, that is what is so cool about it, is, heading out with your mates or people you've just met and going on an adventure. And whether it's, running in the local mountains or packing up for the weekend to go somewhere new and have a trail run or a kayak on a river, etc. It's that's really special. So a little bit of visualization would be my advice. And as I say all the time, the more times you can get in the kayak, whether it's flat water or what will make your experience a lot more satisfying, and create less work for my crew.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? How those waitlist tracking? They were last time we spoke on the podcast, it was a big topic that we spoke about, and the event was oversubscribed, and our coach Aaron Hooper was currently dead last on the 2-day waitlist at 1,020. I just had a quick look last night, and he's currently at 749, so he's jumped 271 people forward, which is quite significant actually. How do you sort of see that going based on past numbers and sort of drop off, because there's always injuries and other stuff happens? Where are we at with that, and what's the expectation in terms of numbers that might actually make it through to the start line?
Yeah, I'd love to be able to give you an exact, but it's really crystal ball stuff, and every year we sit there and we crunch numbers and go, we're sitting there going, oh, we're well oversubscribed. And then we sort of get to December and we're actually chewing through these, we're down to so-and-so. So, I mean, it's crystal ball stuff, but we have tuned through quite a few in the last 2 months. So there's been a fair bit of change there. Where we're at the moment is, as I've always tell people, we do hold spots for elites, etc. So they have been offered out. So those ones are covered. So we actually know where we are in terms of our exact numbers. So in the next month, what we'll do is another recrunch and say, okay, this is where we are. This is what we've got available, and go out with another lot. Honestly, I mean, it is crystal ball stuff, and it is shifting. But often this period here is we do get quite a few people contacting us because the conditions are difficult, and they're like, I'm not going to get there. And but yeah, outside of that, I can't give you a lot of feedback, really. I mean, those numbers, and I'll make it 740. I would, if I was a betting man, I probably wouldn't put money on him getting it.
No, the 740 is down the track, but it's one of those things. It's a bit like the Kepler challenge as well. The closer it gets, people and this is such a big challenge that actually I don't want to do it because I haven't trained for it. So I guess as long as you're willing to kind of keep training and keep chipping away, once we get to December and into January, you'll just whip through sort of thing because people haven't had the opportunity to actually do that training. So I guess it depends on how close you're willing to go.
Yeah, and that's a big one. Like there'll be if the weight list sitting at 700 at the moment, there'll be 500. There'll be 300 people there that have already said to themselves mentally they're not doing the event. They just haven't removed their name from the wait list. So it does churn through pretty quickly. So so that's sort of where we're at there.
Poor old Aaron, like at 749, we nicknamed him 1020, and 749 just doesn't have the same ring, Rich, does it? So I think he'll always be 1020 to us. I think from here on. Glenn, is there anything that the people can do for you now? Like, can the competitors, the athletes, is there anything that they can do for Kathmandu Coast to Coast or do for you to help this journey along?
No, just get out there and enjoy it. The experience, like. Get out and get training, and I mean, we get pretty excited about putting on the event. I've always said it's a privilege, to be able to put on this experience. And listening to Sophie speak earlier, it sort of makes you, it's like cool. I was definitely involved in that process of her getting there. So get out there and just get out and enjoy it. And I mean, you guys have said it all tonight. You got to work out what your expectation is of this adventure or this event. And then and start enjoying the process, because it is about the process and you're all amongst it right now. So really enjoy that, because this is what it is. Sitting awake, lying at night, going, should I be doing this? And having those guilt trips about going away from the family and training, etc. That's all part of the journey, and that's what makes it so special. So enjoy it. That's the process, and that's about what you can do for us. Internationals, probably they need to really start thinking about the event from where they sit. It's definitely a big challenge for anyone, but coming from overseas to do the event with all the logistics around are a huge challenge. So thinking about what kayak you're using, where you're going to get that. We have options on our website, and you guys, Richard especially, is a great person to touch base with, and options there. How are you going to make that support crew? Are you bringing people from overseas? How are you going to make that work? Again, Team CP do offer a package where they'll put on the whole support crew experience for you, and it'll take a lot of the stress out. Even if you have got family coming over, my advice would be let them enjoy the race and watch you race, and have someone else take care of all the logistics. You'll have a far better experience. But start thinking about those things from an international's perspective, and please email us too, and we'll help out where we can to make the experience as easy as possible.
That's good advice. It's just basically our sorts of questions, and if you put it out there, like that's what our job is, and that's what your job is as well, is just to help people sort of ease the burden of it, I guess, and increase the learning curve so we can actually enjoy the whole process.
Yep.
Nice. Any last piece of advice or things to share, Glenn?
No, not really. I mean, I do. One thing I do hear regularly, and it is, we all know that to do the coast to coast is an expensive event. But there is ways and means, obviously there's a large list of compulsory gear. That gear doesn't all need to be new. If you're getting a fleece that you're using for your kayaking when you're training, etc., it doesn't actually need to be a new fleece. You could go to the local op shop and pick up a fleece that's going to sit in the bottom of a dry bag from now until race day and potentially never get used, and just be wrapped up in duct tape. There is ways and means that you can actually, spare expense on the in terms of the event. You guys touched on doing other races. We are really lucky in Canterbury. There's a kayak series on over winter. Get out there and get amongst those. You'll have a great time, and it's a really cheap way to get support on the river and actually be able to go and experience some grade 2 paddling. So get out and have a go at those, and again, we just look forward to seeing you in February, and start planning now really, and enjoy the process.
Hey, you mentioned about the elite entries are out and things. Who's on the elite list, mate? Who's on that list? Who's at the top? What's going on?
Yeah, no, I'm a bit excited, Angus. So we Sam Manson, if anyone follows him, he was our winner from last year. So he's been over in Europe racing, And so he, I think he finished up third in the major event over there, which is very similar, their version of the Coast to Coast, I suppose. And the winner of that's actually coming out to New Zealand to race. So I'm pretty pumped on that. Alex Hunt's back, and Robbie Hunt, brothers from Australia. So Robbie had his first taste of it last year, and Alex is obviously a seasoned competitor. So they're both pretty excited to get back. So and so that they'll be very competitive. They're only coming over here for one reason now. They're not coming back to complete the event. They're coming back to try to win it. The females again, basically the females. You've got your Simones and Alinas, which are, those are the superheroes of the sport. There's about 5 young females in here that are chasing them really, really hard, and they're all signed up again, and they'll be super competitive. So
you got Rebecca Kingsford's name on that list, have you?
Rebecca Kingsford, Hannah Lund, all these girls that they've had a bit of taste. They understand the event, and they're probably they're sort of. Now they're there to, give it a crack. They're there only for probably one reason as well. So the elite's going to be, is going to be pretty exciting next year. And another thing that I'm a little bit excited about is there's a fairly elite Australian team trying to get jacked up to come and race the one-day 3-person teams. And there's a few big names in there that are coming up. And we've got a New Zealand team that's looking pretty tidy as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing a bit of a Bledisloe Cup match in that, and a real ding-dong. So that'll be cool.
Is that top secret still who they are? Or
we'll keep that on the down low, Angus. But maybe the next podcast we might be able to announce a few names to get people excited. But
cool.
looking forward to it. It'll be excited already.
Excellent. Well, mate, thanks for joining us. Thanks for sharing what's going on in the background, because I think there's a lot of people out there probably don't realise how big a job this is to put this event on, right? Like, it's a humongous year-round job to get to create the event that everybody gets to enjoy. So thank you very much for everything that you and your team are doing to get it together in the background. Thanks for having us again, of course, this season, and we look forward to catching up again in the future.
No, thanks very much, guys. Good to chat, and good luck to everyone with their training over winter and or summer if you're the Northern Hemi. And looking forward to February already.
Good job. Well done, Glenn.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Glenn.
Cheers, lads.
Yep.
Good job.
Yep.
Ooh,
Just
bit
like
fizzy there. He's a bit of excitement there on the start list already. He's pretty
good.
excited.
Yeah, I hope he's pacing himself. Hope he's not going too hard too early.
Oh, mate. Oh, well, look, hey, I was just thinking about that, the winter doldrums and things, and how do you get fizzed up, and actually Mark Butler commented right at the start of this episode saying he's fizzing already, and he's still on the wait list. So if you need fizzing up, maybe give us a listen, go back through our past podcasts, and use that as a bit of motivation to get fizzed up about the event and get some visualization going on.
Absolutely. And sing out if you need help, if there's any questions that we can answer as we go. That's part of our job on this podcast as well. So keep us posted along those. But hey, Angus, from our podcast, any key takeaways for you?
I think, like, training should be starting now, but within proportion of what's going on, and I wouldn't be beating yourself up if you're not getting as much done as maybe what you thought you should. Like you just said, it's cold, it's winter in our where we are in our country. You may be listening from another country, but where we are now, it is hard. So just get yourself through, like Glenn said, do some visualizing and get some quality sessions. And it doesn't have to be quantity or huge volume. Just get some quality in.
Yeah, that's right. And I totally agree. Like, actually be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up too much, just as Sophie said, and just see if you can get some runs on the board, short and sharp, and have a smile on your face while you're doing it, and enjoy the process of it, and keep it social, and then you're going to enjoy it more as well.
Yeah, actually, I think the social thing's really good. And so if you haven't got a training partner or partners, look around, get on the, there's some really good Facebook, Kathmandu Coast to Coast Facebook communities out there, the CP communities there. Find some like-minded people and just, all embrace it and enjoy it together, and you'll get through it way faster and quicker and happier.
Yeah, good. So sing out if you want to know.
Maybe at home, actually, now you should be storing up some brownie points for when you are going to use them. Get those lawns mowed, do the dishes, get all those brownie points stocked up, ready to use later on.
It's such a balancing act, that one, Angus. Like, you don't want to raise expectations too high either. That's back when you weren't training so much, sort of thing. Yeah, it's yes, definitely, but also balance that. Look after yourself there. So sing out if you want to know more about that training plan plus thing that I talked about earlier in the show. 20 people, 20 weeks. Let's get to the coast to coast together. And also, if you want to know more about support crew, we've only got a couple of spots left for the 2-day and the longest day. So get in touch with us if you want some help in that space as well. But enjoy your training. Thanks for joining us, and get out there and make the most of it.
We'll be back. We'll see you back for episode 3 very shortly. Thanks, Richard.
Well done. Cheers, Angus.
It's the best Kiwi event in New Zealand, this.
Crossing New Zealand in 1 or 2 days.
Why do I do it? Because I love it.
3, 2, 1.